Now I'm just going to hop out, open the gate and put the sign out.
Remember Barker's Creek, Landcare and Wildlife Group.
The sign's an A-frame board. We put it out at the entrance to wherever site we're working on. A lot of new members don't really know the area terribly well. When other people drive past and say, oh, what's happening here? Well, it's Barker's Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group doing what they do best, which is working bees.
You're listening to Taking Root in Barker's Creek. I'm Kyla Brettle, and this is a SOUNDWORK about the almost 30-year story of Barker's Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group and the long game to restore health to the natural environments of central Victoria.
With Landcare, it's definitely the shared goal around nurturing the land and trying to undo some of the damage that's been done since the colonial settlement.
We won't ever restore it to how it was, but if we can restore it so it's a functioning ecosystem, then that's probably as good as we're going to get.
Bit of hands-on and meet people and contribute to the local community and contribute to the environment and make the whole thing a little bit better, you know. Bit of a win-win.
I think we're trying to achieve habitat for wildlife and people so that we kind of can get back into those patches of nature that still exist and that, you know, those patches of nature where we can all get together.
Some ways to die, some ways to die. Falling off a plane, teaching yourself to fly. Teaching yourself to fly.
It's 8:45 on a chilly Sunday morning at my home in Barker's Creek. The kids are half naked, complaining about being cold and circling dangerously close to the freshly baked fig and almond cake cooling on the rack.
Mama, shoes?
This cake is steaming.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, what are you going to wear, Fee?
I'm gonna wear-
Just your little sneakers?
We're getting ready for a Sunday working bee with our local Landcare group. We joined shortly after the 2019 Black Summer bushfires. Felt like a good way to channel our worry about climate impacts and extinction rates and do the right thing for the bushland and animals where we live.
Weeding and planting awaits.
Woo! Let's go. Let's go. Dumb ways to die is the best ad I've ever seen. What, Mama?
But to be honest, we don't do much more than turn up with the required baked goods once a month to weed, plant and eat cake. But I'm curious to learn more about the story of this community and the country that connects us, and also if this Landcare group can be a force for change, like make a real difference to the ecological health of this landscape. I want my kids and other animals to be able to live here in the future. The place called Barker's Creek is tucked away on Jarrah country. It's a patchwork of paddocks, 5 to 10 acre house blocks and bushland between the two towns of Castlemaine and Harcourt. Its defining feature is the creek that gives this place a name.
You know, the early explorers say it's a park-like country, like a gentleman's garden back home.
Local Jarrah elder Uncle Rick Nelson describes what this place looked like before colonisation.
It would have been scattered with big old trees, big canopies, lush undergrowth, and rich in resources and stuff. So, yeah, it would have been beautiful country.
According to the colonial history books, Barker's Creek's biggest asset was the gold that triggered the 1850s rush, with a nugget found right here in Specimen Gully Road.
The early settlers come and took large tracts of land. You know, we know there was massacres and ill treatment of Aboriginal people, and then the gold come and all they were interested in finding more gold.
Tens of thousands of people came here to grab what they could, and for a short time the region became known as the richest deposit of alluvial or surface-lying gold in the world. It was like an itch they couldn't stop scratching, until over 3.5 million ounces of gold were extracted and taken away.
We call it the upside down country because from the gold it's basically been turned upside down, so there's lots of healing to do here.
The colonial gold rush and its legacies play a key role in the story I have to tell about the Barker's Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group. The idea for the group was sparked by one of those living memories of the gold rush, the heavy disturbed soils diggers left behind, and the seeds of pioneer plants that could thrive in it.
There was a lot of gorse and broom and blackberry right the way along the creek. They were the things that hit you in the eye, these weeds.
Nearly 30 years ago, in 1997, it was the sight of these weeds, bristling with good health, that inspired retired schoolteacher Peter Sansom and his friend John Turnbull to start the Barker's Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group.
Well, it was basically John. He was the pusher. You know, once he raised it, and I thought, that's a good idea, John. Let's go for it. And we did. Yeah, I remember we had a meeting at their place on that first night. Everybody went away all charged up, and we struck while the iron was hot on the following Sunday. I got photographs of that somewhere too, I don't know where. There was a feel-good component to it, so let's get in and do what we can, and have a good time while we're doing it, and so on. And it was a weed control push, That was our main concern. There were no really rabid conservationists, environmentalists, so it was low-key. So that's how it started. Okay.
All right, you can hold that one. It is live.
Oh, it is live, okay.
Peter's in his 80s now and doesn't live in Barker's Creek anymore, so I'm taking him for a drive back to where his Landcare adventure started.
So, yeah, this is my first foray into this sort of thing, and it's very rewarding, especially when you get on well with the people.
Was there any discussion or whatever in the group around
what we should be doing?
Yeah.
Not really.
How did you know what to do?
Well, I guess each of us came with things around their area that they brought to the table, and we assessed and we looked. We had one disaster. We spent a whole Sunday afternoon cutting down saplings of what we thought were Cootamundra wattles.
Cootamundra wattles are classified as invasive weeds here.
Only they weren't. They were silver wattles. We were a bit embarrassed by all that. They did look very similar.
During Peter's presidency, the group mainly worked on each other's land, but there is a publicly owned patch he's proud about.
We call it McManus Reserve.
It's an acre of bush where McManus Road crosses Barker's Creek.
It was relatively high profile. People used to pull off and take a morning tea break there and so on. And that's one of the reasons, I think, why we were trying to make it look pretty, look nice, look better. And I think we felt that it was doable for the manpower that we had. This Peerless Road here, gee, there's been some stuff going on there too. Crikey.
Peter and I arrive at McManus Reserve.
This was, and over the other side, this was just wall-to-wall blackberries. This is looking pretty good, actually. This was impenetrable. I shut my eyes and the middle picture just down here you simply could not get through. It looks good today now with all the picnanthus out too.
The group intensively pulled, slashed and poisoned the broom and blackberry here for a decade and have maintained the site with an annual clean-up. So after nearly 30 years of effort, this 1 acre reserve is pretty much free of Cape broom.
And we started on this side, as you can still see, well, we did do some planting.
I do remember that we did have the Harcourt Fire Brigade come one Sunday and they did a practice burn and we got a whole lot of stuff cleared away. We did some planting, not excessively, but over the years we regarded that as being our most successful adventure.
When I first moved to Barker's Creek 15 years ago, I didn't think to ask why the bush looked so dry and grey and scraggly. I just accepted that was what it was like here. But since I've learnt that what I'm seeing is actually a 170-year-old industrial wasteland.
Just flattened, and we've just simply left it. And this is what's come back.
Gold mining ripped up every tree, reshaped the waterways with toxic sludge, and decimated the wildlife.
And it's remarkable that a lot of native plants and animals have persisted at all. It's fantastic that they have.
Well, you know this area better than I do, so are there any spots that you want me to have a look at? Or
We'll go back over the waterway, and I think I'm with local ecologist Paul Foreman. He's a specialist in restoring damaged landscapes, and we're walking through McManus Reserve.
So there's a lot of this blue periwinkle here just sort of covering the ground. That's this stuff here. So even though there's no blackberries anymore and English broom and so on, these weeds can be still very smothering and doesn't allow the natives to regenerate.
Further along, we see the electric green of soursop, an invasive ground cover that grows vigorously in winter and collapses in our dry summers.
Which is a real sort of problem because those resources aren't being provided to the birds and to the animals and other critters that are living here. So what you want to try and do is even out that growth. You want a diversity of plants will mean you'll have a diversity of life activities throughout the year. So the more diversity you have, the more activity you have in the system and the more healthier it is. But if you've only got one type of plant, i.e. winter growing herbaceous things like this, and they all collapse in summer, then nothing much is happening.
Yeah, so you're kind of starting from a low base, but weed control is a big part of the restoration process, and the local group has made a start there, but more needs to be done really.
One of the reasons the ecology is fragile and unhealthy here is because the land isn't getting enough water or holding on to it when it does.
When you get a rainfall event, everyone thinks it's terrific because the water's flowing, but it's actually flowing out of your view. It's what we call leaky landscapes or flashy landscapes. The water just hits it and flushes off rather than hitting it and soaking in and then trickling slowly in the subsoil down the system.
The transformation of healthy waterways into drains is another legacy of the gold rush that's determined the course of this story. Before mining, the creek would have looked more like a chain of ponds or billabongs, which slowed the force of the water flow so it didn't gouge out or strip nutrients from the soil.
And so that original sort of cascade of ponds that would step down the valley, as it were, and where they were permanent, they were the areas where the platypus would live. Because now the plug's been pulled out of them, over summer they all dry out, and so it's just not able to support that continuous high quality habitat that used to be there. We've permanently pushed them into a kind of degraded state, and unless we actually sort of come in and fix those fundamental drivers that are compromised and that have stopped, then it won't recover.
This environment is already pretty stressed.
The challenge is pretty enormous.
Paul explains that much of this landscape is out of balance, with too many of some types of plants and animals and not enough of others. On top of this, the changing climate is bringing hotter temperatures and less rain, so the bush here is being squeezed from both its past and its future.
There's hope if we make it a priority to fix these landscapes properly. So that, to me, that's the task here, is to try and persuade the community to think differently about the environment and actually invest in looking after it properly. Because if we don't, that objective of actually keeping these things we value will not be achieved.
I don't want to fall in.
Back in 2006, the group's priority was not the environment, but its own survival.
Look at that. Nice enough, steady enough.
With a dispersed population of less than 500, getting enough volunteers to make a Landcare group viable and effective was always going to be a challenge.
Getting up will be the thing.
A decade after it started, the group was losing momentum. The same handful of people came each month, and they hadn't had any fresh blood for years. Until suddenly, they got 3 new members, Daryl Collis and his friends and neighbours Marg and Ray Ollerton.
We knew there were various peoples that Ray had already met, and they were good people, so we decided to come along and see what it was like. So we went to an AGM, and the president at the time said, I think it's time to put the group into abeyance for the time being, because we're all 10 years older and we're 10 years tireder. And so Ray and Marg and I had a chat and said, well, you know, I said, I'm up for it if you are. So we did a coup. No, we didn't do a coup. We said to him, okay, well, if you're tired, how would you like to hand it over to us? And we'll give it a go.
And so Daryl Collis, along with Marg and Ray Ollerton, became the newly minted executive.
The optimist in me probably meant that that night I was considering all sorts of things. Probably including that Barkers Creek Landcare would become the primary community group in Barkers Creek, a focal point for people coming to the area where they can get involved, get to know others, build bridges to other parts of the community and stuff like that. So yeah, I would have dreamt big like that.
18 years later, in 2024, Daryl Collis is still going strong as president.
Don't need my glasses on now, do I? Do need my beanie on.
It's just past 9:30 and Daryl's arrived half an hour ahead of today's working bee, which is at one of the most degraded sites in Barkers Creek. Less than 20 years ago, this place was a council tip.
So the first task is unpack the car.
Most of the working bees focus on weeding and maintenance, but today's a big planting day, and part of a project to support pollinators and other insects right across Mount Alexander Shire. It's run by Connecting Country. This is a local not-for-profit that got off the ground in 2008. It does a lot of work to support community groups as well as property owners. So one thing that has changed in the past 18 years is that reliable information about what to plant and how to care for the bush has become much more accessible.
We've got hakeas, we've got other wattles, we've got dianellas, we've got correas and she oaks. I have in previous years made the mistake of putting all the plants in the car the night before, and you go out to the car the next morning and it's full of water. It's dripping off everything because the plants have all been breathing. So this morning I had to stack it all in.
These seedlings have been sourced from local propagator Francis Sincotta, who's an expert in the ecology here.
So you can make sure that whatever plants you're putting in a particular area are from your particular area, which is great. Now, I'm not sure if we've got any this time, But up on my block, I had a wonderful stand of native tea tree, and I collected a lot of seeds, and Francis is still propagating those seeds, and that's probably nearly 10 years on. So seeds will last a long time, which we all know is not good for weeds because they just keep coming back. But it's good to know native seeds can regenerate themselves as well. Right, car's empty. So now we really just got to wait for other people to come.
Daryl's confident he won't be planting on his own today, but 18 years ago it was a different story.
In the early days, the members were more elderly. We had a lot of more financial members too, like people who wanted to support the group but weren't necessarily able to come along to the working bees.
Margoliton is the current treasurer of the group. In 2006 she was secretary and helped to recruit new members.
Daz came up with the idea of having the website. I can remember when the market used to be at the IGA car park. We had a table there. I'd go up and sit on the table and we'd have the Landcare things out trying to promote the group. Yeah.
And then one of the key things probably in reinvigorating the group was that we went and visited, door knocked everyone along the creek from Blackjack Road through to here.
It was a nice day like today. 2 blokes pulled up out the front and come in, and someone had told them that I was the person to go and see.
And we said, we want to clean up the creek, do you want to get involved?
And they wouldn't leave me alone.
A lot of those people said, oh, I didn't know there was a group sort of thing, which is after we moved, and they've got involved. And we ended up with probably about 90% of the people who said yes. Morning, Lois.
Hi, Daryl. How you going?
You're well. If you feel like it, you can bring those boxes and we just...
Phil, we joined when we came up from Melbourne, which is about 10 or 11 years ago, yeah.
I'm Sally Polmare and I'm a relatively new member.
Yeah, my name is Lou Marcel, and we like the land and the native animals and all that sort of stuff, so we thought I'd do a little bit.
My name's Liz Johnson, and it's a way to meet my neighbours.
My name's Nico.
We came up for the Sustainable House Open Day that they used to run. We just got this feeling that these were our sort of people and we could find a home here.
So yeah, Tony Cormack, coming up to 12 years of feeling like we belong, which is kind of nice.
Kath Jolly, it was kind of like one of the things that I could only imagine doing when I retired was like join Landcare.
I'm Arlo and I joined Landcare because my parents thought it looked good.
It's once a month, so it's sort of like, okay, you know, I can do that.
My name is Sunny, and basically I've been brought here since I was around 2, forcefully.
Did you see another hole somewhere?
That one.
So I joined it and it was good. There is nice people, you get to hack at weeds, and after that you get some amazing food, so I stayed.
Box of coal. I've born and bred Castlemaine. Life member of the Harcourt Footy Club, life member of the Harcourt Cricket Club. Joined the Landcare group 20 years maybe. Yeah, so I've always been community minded.
My name's Lois Denham. It was the end of the millennial drought, and where the house was had only a few straggling shrubs. So it was kind of looking, what have I taken on? If I'm going to look after the bush, I better get in and learn about it. So Landcare was a good start.
My name's Nick. I've been a member of the group for about 7 years, and this is my third working bee coming along. We do these days have our fences and our boundaries, but obviously the landscape doesn't respond to those boundaries, so being part of a network and a community is really important. So hopefully we'll get along a bit more frequently from now on.
Good morning.
Yes. 15 Barkers Creek Landcarers show up for the working bee today.
It's interesting regarding our turnouts. We get consistent numbers, but not consistent people. So some people can't make it, others can, and it all works out. And there's no pressure, and it's great.
While the group's active membership of around 30 adults hasn't really changed in the past decade, what's different from the early years is that new members join and take place of those who leave.
Which is what you've got to do. Any organisation has to constantly refresh itself. Otherwise you become stale and old and pull the pin. And one of the things that delights me really, even though I've been doing it 18 years, is the active membership now is not the active membership of 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So that regeneration brings fresh energy and fresh ideas and enthusiasm and stuff like that. So it's fabulous. Yeah.
All right, what's the plan?
Probably first thing is grab a box of plants.
During Darryl's presidency, the Barkers Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group have taken on several public projects. They've removed weeds along a 14-kilometre stretch of the creek and have also been revegetating the old tip site where they're working today. There's also been a bunch of smaller weeding and planting projects and working bees at member properties.
I think we are known within Mount Alexander at least, and some of the key agencies in the area, that we are a group that gets stuff done.
The group is no longer feeling its way forward. It's facing outwards and looking ahead, doing fundraisers for Connecting Country, giving workshops and trying to bring in external funding through grant applications.
So if there is a project and you want to make sure it happens, then Barkers Creek will help to make sure it does happen.
But I'm still wondering if this community group is up to the monumental task of restoring health to the natural environment here.
I've got another weeder for you.
What about these?
What about, pull them out, they're weeds.
Brian Walters. I'm just pulling the weeds out of our pod here, of which we have a few.
Wireweed, stinkweed, and some of the broadleaf weeds that have come up in here. Every time we're pulling out introduced weeds, I feel so satisfied.
I think I'm weeding. I'm still learning what weeds are weeds. It's good. And I learn from people who've been here longer than me.
We love coming once a month and doing work here.
To try and make a small dent over a while on just our local area.
We're very grateful that we can do something active in caring that is organised and thought through.
And a slight dent is better than a no dent.
For years, ecological restoration was not a focus for the group. It was more about weed control and landscape beautification.
It was a nice day like today. The missus didn't have me a job for me. I'd get out and do some work along the creek.
Boxer Cole is a past vice president of the group and for many years a member of the bee team, which is very effective at helping get the work done outside the family-friendly Sunday working bees.
Well, not every Thursday, every second Thursday. We'd go in and spray, poison, burn, and had the creek looking beautiful.
Boxer isn't at the working bee today. He's spraying Roundup by Active to kill blackberries on his property. This is a herbicide that can cause harm to humans and pollinators, like honeybees, but is otherwise considered safe.
Biggest trouble is people don't respect it enough. So, and if you use it correctly and don't misuse it, there's nothing wrong with it.
Do you reckon you can fix up the bush without the spray and stuff?
No. Phil thought we could, but yeah, it's a bloody big job without it.
There's so much seed in the ground, from the introduced species, it's just so hard to knock it out.
Phil Minari is the current vice president.
Even on our property, we cut out the gorse and then it springs back and we might keep chiselling it out, but it just keeps coming back and keeps coming back. But you just got to keep nailing it each time it comes up. And you know, with the bridal creep in 2020 during COVID, I'd have my headphones on, and during a meeting I'd just be chiselling out some bridal creeper, and I'd loosen up all the ground and pull up all the mat of bulbs underneath, and there might be a mat that's 2 foot long by 1 foot wide or something, but there'd just be one bulb that was still alive, and there'd be bridal creeper on the surface, you know. And so that told me that the spray really works with bridal creeper. If you spray at the right time, it goes down, kills all those bulbs. And so probably should have just gone through and done a little bit of targeted spraying. But, you know, personally I try and minimise the spraying. I've got bees, and, you know, I know a few people around here have got bees, and it's not a good thing for them. So it's always a bit of a quandary on what to do, but, yeah. It's a good thing to do during meetings.
It's easy to get lost down the rabbit hole of weed control, and it is a key part of restoration. But the problem of focusing on weed control as a standalone activity is that it doesn't fix the underlying issues that makes the weeds thrive in the first place, like the heavy disturbed soils and the lack of healthy competition from native plants. So the group keeps having to return to project sites to weed and weed again, which eats into time the group could be spending on other projects.
Harder to get off.
Yes. Now, Marg, are you getting dirt?
I've got some dirt.
Oh. Can we have some dirt in? So time's getting away, Kyla. 10:21.
Back at the old tip site, the group have explored other ways to manage the weeds and help make the bush more resilient. They've tried mass planting in 5 metre rounds or fenced off pods. This is to give the natives a better chance of outcompeting the weeds and eventually managing themselves without human intervention.
Try and give it a good start if we can.
What's the attrition rate?
Yeah, well, some of these grass pods that we have, we've had a success rate of maybe 70-80%, which is really good. But in 1 or 2 of the other pods, even though there's been no rabbits getting into them or anything like that, there might be 20-30% that survive. So it's always a little bit hit and miss. Just got to keep trying.
We can't live in a dead landscape. I think that's the thing that winds me up the most is, you know, politicians going about money, 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 the economy, you know. If we don't have a functioning environment, we ain't got an economy. It's pretty basic.
You know, it's daunting, but it's not impossible. We actually do have techniques and knowledge and approaches to address it, but we're just not rolling it out at the right scale and providing the right kind of resources to support it to make it all happen.
Ecologist Paul Foreman works with BioLinks Alliance. This is a regional not-for-profit which is researching and trialling techniques for large-scale ecological restoration. The study Paul's been working on is happening on 138 hectares of bush due east of here in Spring Plains. It's different country, but similarly damaged by the gold rush. 2 years into Spring Plains and the results are looking good. The soil's holding more water and the quality of the habitat's improved. Average tree size is increasing and there's more understory vegetation, all helping to lift biodiversity. The Barkers Creek group met up with Paul recently to talk about how they might scale up their work here.
Yeah, so there's some of the tussocks over there I can see. So remarkably, this little patch has sort of survived.
Paul and I are looking for remnant ground cover vegetation at McManus Reserve.
So there's 3 different types here. So this is the big Poa tussock. This is the Carax I mentioned.
As I learn more about the natural ecology here, I'm discovering how unique and beautiful this place really is. beyond the trauma, there are pockets of bush and parts of the waterways that are diverse and resilient. The life force is strong here.
Patch of them here, but these species, you can imagine if this was everywhere across the valley, how different it would look. And certainly one approach to restoration is, once you get some of the other things right, is you can bombard these landscapes with huge numbers of these plants and start to shade out some of the weeds, because they're quite big tussocks.
So how would you think of the management of this particular space?
I would start from the bottom up, and I'd be looking at the hydrology of the creek and how we can sort of improve that. I'd be looking at the ground layer and the vegetation cover and how we can reset that. And a lot of those species are missing, and so we need to put them back in a way that is self-sustaining, so that when they're put back, they're able to naturally, regenerate and persist. And if they're not doing that, then we're not achieving our goal.
The sort of environmental restoration Paul's talking about involves big dramatic work up front and then lots of monitoring. It might include getting diggers in to reshape the creek so it acts more like the chain of ponds we spoke about, or ripping into the contour lines on hills so that water can penetrate the clay subsoil that's sitting on the surface. Other techniques like ecological thinning mean taking a number of trees out in order to promote the growth of big trees, which are great habitat providers, as well as giving light and space to understory and ground cover plants.
There's lots of good projects going on around the country that sort of demonstrate that these sort of techniques can work. Rewilding, reintroduction of critters that have become extinct. It can work. We just have to, develop the plans and develop the processes and the systems to get the resources and the knowledge out there to the communities to make it all happen.
Doing ecological restoration work requires more than expertise and enthusiastic volunteers. It takes money. And without a significant grant, the Barkers Creek Landcare and Wildlife Group will be weeding in circles as the bush dies around them. To get a grant means convincing authorities and the broader community that Barkers Creek is worth saving. This gets me to perhaps the most pervasive legacy of the 1850s gold rush that's shaped this story. Mining did more than prepare the ground for environmental damage. It established a way of seeing this place as something to be used and abused for short-term gain. For the past 200 years, Barkers Creek, or rather this part of Dja Dja Wurrung country, has been mainly valued for the gold that could be ripped out of it, the wood that could be hacked off it, and as a place to hide things, out of sight and out of mind.
We knew that there was a little bit of rubbish in our garden over that side, so organised to have a digger come in to excavate it, and had no idea to the extent of the rubbish.
Barkers Creek group member Nico Pye uncovered a 20-tonne illegal rubbish dump when she and her family bought a property here in 2012.
This was where the massive pile was, just here, and the pit of death was where the rhubarb was. He dug down maybe 2.5 metres, and it was just full of this fetid, gross water that had been sat with all the rubbish, and it was just disgusting. And he'd done that, and then he said, "Do you want me to keep going?" This is the excavator. "Do you want me to keep going?" I said, "No, I don't. I'll have to deal with this first before we go any further." Rang Tony up in tears. "Oh my God, what have we done? We've bought this absolute mess. It's just awful." And I think I sent him a picture, and he's like, "Oh my God."
The cost of taking all this to the tip was in the order of $20,000.
So that first winter we were here, I was a stay-at-home mum at that stage. Mila would have her afternoon nap, and every day I'd come out with my gumboots on and just hand sift to get the rubbish out and, fill a couple of bags each day.
It took months, even with a couple of Sunday Landcare working bees to help out.
So we had things like fridges, freezers, there was a VCR and you could push your fingers in the flaps. I pulled out 5 business shirts still on their coat hangers, jars of buttons, household rubbish, a phenomenal amount of stuff. And I think I would have felt, if it had been sort of from the 60s and 70s when, our attitudes to that sort of thing were a little bit different, because it was, we were finding Coke bottles with dates on from 99. So it wasn't that old. I'll walk around there in a minute. But yeah, so the gully runs from sort of that point into their block.
As she separates the rubbish from the dirt through the long Barker's Creek winter, Nico starts finding old credit cards, Youth Hostel Association cards and other details.
So I became a bit of a stalker, and I rang her up one day and I said, "Can you please explain why I've got your rubbish in my garden?" And she sort of proceeded to say, there was an older couple there and they wanted the gully filled in, so they were just filling it in with rubbish. And she admitted she'd dumped 3 trailer loads of rubbish in our garden to fill in the gully. It's just like, you really thought that was okay? We had people at the time asking us if we would have still chosen to buy the property. And our response at the time was, well, yes, of course, because although it was a shock, we're thankful that we're guardians of this property and we can make it better.
Nico and her family really came through for Barker's Creek. A couple of years later, in 2019, they and the Landcare group, along with other neighbours, led a successful challenge at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, also known as VCAT. This action stopped a local construction company from illegally processing industrial waste in the company's bush property behind Nico's house. While being part of the group hasn't led me to find my inner hero like Nico, it's shown me that the value of Landcare and wildlife groups go beyond the work they do in the world and whether or not it can spearhead ecological recovery. While I joined the group out of fear of climate impacts, the reason I'm here now is because I've made friends in this group and I've grown to love this beautiful country.
I think the community taking responsibility for it means that we have a greater sense of connection to the land.
And how beautiful a group of people are looking after this space. You're not just slogging it out of your own.
Because it's nature. It's what we were missing. That's why we wanted to move, count the bird species and stuff like that, rather than the traffic.
I'm Karen. It's probably been over 10 years for me. So it's been a really beautiful experience to walk through parts of nature and watch the trees grow that we've planted, and also do that with my children, watch my children grow at the same time.
We didn't see them for the first couple of years. They were below the weeds.
And them also commenting, look, I remember planting that.
But now they're 20 feet high, it's beautiful.
I grew up on farms. I've always had that connection to country. So it's actually respect to me, the local Jarrah people, respect for the past and hope for the future.
That's all there. Since we've been here. And how's your garden going, Arlo? I started a bush tucker garden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
terrific.
Well, 9 of my 10 yam daisies I planted have come up.
Have they really?
Yeah, I'm really lucky.
Oh, you are. That's fantastic. I planted some roots, but mine, I divided them and planted. Mine haven't come up yet.
Oh. Wait, how long have they been? When did I replant them? Yeah.
In the time my little family joined this group and I started sound recording, at first for no particular reason, my children have grown from being 4 and 8 years old to 9 and 13, one on the brink of double digits and the other mid-air on a dive into adolescence. Change comes ready or not, and over the past almost 30 years, attitudes towards the environment have shifted within Barker's Creek and surrounds. The local Landcare group here is not a lone stem in a plastic guard. It's one of 29 community Landcare and Friends of groups in the Shire, with leadership from Jarrah traditional owners and organisations like Connecting Country. So my hopes for the ecological health of this landscape are not pinned on this one group, but on this network of local people, collaborating, sharing knowledge and taking on ambitious projects, creating space for everyone to step into and do the work that means we can live here well.
Okay, I've got a... lovely, thanks so much for that.
Okay.
That was awesome.
All right, I'll check in with Daryl.
We're just going to go for another 10 minutes. Do you want to do some?
We're all tired. Well, we've all done enough. So there's probably, 15 people, all with buckets, going around with the mulch and putting that around all the plants. And then it's morning tea time. So that's where we're up to.
My kids have been waiting for this moment since my partner started baking at 7:30 this morning. Cups of tea and hot chocolate are poured and shared, and everyone's milling around the back of Group Secretary Kath Jolly's car. The boot's spread with more cakes, slices and biscuits than you can poke a stick at.
Wow. What are the chocolate looking ones? I already had a piece of cake, I think. What's the best cake?
Many good ones.
Oh, okay.
That's no good.
You got me Mandy's cake. When we first joined the group, Ray, Marg and I, a guy used to turn up with his 2 old thermoses and a packet of Arnott's biscuits, right? And my story is, they weren't even the cream ones, they were the plain ones. See, so our Landcare morning teas have come a long, long way from that. They're now gourmet Landcare working bee morning teas.
It's all those tree changes for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Those zhuzhi, ottolenghi muffins.
Yes, exactly. So it is, I think, a key part of the Barkers Creek community these days, and I'd like it to be even more so. I think we have opportunities to build more, make more connections, and as well as have even greater impact from an environmental sense, as well as a community sense, you know. And I think they go hand in hand. Nearly done. We're going to make an announcement soon. Good. We need to have our little meeting.
Good job.
All right. So can we have everyone's attention for a little bit? We normally do a quick little wrap up at the end of each working. Okay. There is a big announcement. We got word this week that we were successful with our funding application. So we have a Victorian Landcare grant of $19,000.
The group's received nearly $20,000 to work with ecologist Paul Foreman to draw up a plan to restore health to a 35-hectare reserve in Barkers Creek.
Which will include tree thinning and watercourse works and weed removal and nest boxes. That plan will then allow us to get subsequent funding for each stage of the plan. Is there anything I've missed?
Oh, just that Jarrah have expressed an interest in being involved. There's still lots of road to cover to get there, and funding, of course.
Yeah.
But they're interested in doing fire and forest work.
Yes.
So we'll aim to get them involved in the planning process, so that subsequent funding rounds we include them.
Yeah. And it may even strengthen our applications.
Indeed.
If we're doing. So that's our good news for this month.
Well done to the grant writers. It's very exciting. Sometimes it's a thankless task until you win. So well done.
Work on the Bushland Reserve in Barkers Creek started in February 2025. If you're interested in hearing how this story unfolds, go to the group's website, barkerscreeklandcare.org.